What if the world we know was not the first world to be inhabited by intelligent life? Could there have been civilizations, beings, or races that existed long before Adam, hidden in the earliest layers of history and myth? The Bible begins with the story of creation, Adam and Eve, and the Garden of Eden. Yet hints and whispers in apocryphal texts, ancient legends, and lost traditions suggest a deeper history, a pre-Adamic world where other beings may have walked the earth, shaped the environment, and left traces of knowledge now forgotten. These beings, mysterious and often overlooked, could be the hidden architects of early civilization, or perhaps witnesses to the divine order before humankind assumed its role as stewards of creation. The question itself shakes the foundations of what we assume about human history. What was there before humanity? Genesis records the creation of Adam and Eve as the beginning of mankind, but it never explicitly claims the earth was empty before them. Scholars and theologians have long debated the possibility that God's creative acts might have included other races or creatures whose existence was separate from the lineage of Adam. Apocryphal writings, such as the Book of Jubilees and certain mystical Jewish texts, hint at beings who predated or coexisted alongside Adam, possessing knowledge, longevity, or even spiritual faculties that differed from humans. These texts speak of giants, watchers, and mysterious populations that had dominion over parts of the earth before humanity inherited it. Could these pre-Adamic races have been angels, semi-divine entities, or a type of human-like intelligence lost to time? And if so, why does Scripture focus almost exclusively on Adam's lineage, leaving these other beings in the shadows of history? The concept of pre-Adamic races challenges conventional interpretations of the early chapters of Genesis. While Adam and Eve are portrayed as the first humans, the earth is already fertile, inhabited by animals, and prepared for life. How could such a world have existed in complete isolation, without other intelligent beings shaping or interacting with it? Some rabbinical traditions suggest that the earth was indeed occupied by races whose presence was wiped out or hidden as part of God's larger plan. These beings could have been judged for their rebellion or corruption, their stories deliberately erased to establish Adam's line as the central narrative of human history. Their disappearance or concealment raises profound questions. Were these beings entirely destroyed, or do traces of them remain hidden, perhaps in myths, ruins, or unexplained phenomena across the world? Archaeological speculation has often tried to locate evidence for civilizations predating known history. Ancient megaliths, subterranean structures, and unexplained artifacts have fueled theories of advanced beings existing long before recorded human activity. Could these be remnants of pre-Adamic races, or simply the earliest humans' ingenuity? Ancient myths across Mesopotamia, India, and Egypt describe beings of enormous stature, extraordinary knowledge, and supernatural abilities. The Sumerian, Anunnaki, the giants of India's Mahabharata, and Egypt's early divine kings share common themes. Rulers or beings existing before or parallel to human civilization, often associated with forbidden knowledge, extraordinary lifespan, or immense power. Are these myths symbolic, or could they hint at actual races who lived and perished before Adam's creation? Theological interpretation adds another layer. Pre-Adamic beings could have been spiritual entities, angelic in origin, or hybrid beings, combining aspects of spirit and flesh. The Watchers mentioned in the Book of Enoch descended to instruct humanity, but also led to corruption. Some scholars suggest that these beings might represent a pre-Adamic population that was meant to inhabit the earth, but deviated from God's plan. Their fate, banishment, destruction, or hidden survival mirrors the tension between divine order and free will that continues to define humanity. The biblical narrative of Adam's creation may, therefore, not be the absolute beginning of life on earth, but a new chapter following the judgment or concealment of earlier creations. If pre-Adamic races truly existed, their relationship with humanity is deeply intriguing. Did Adam and Eve encounter remnants of these beings in the early world? Did Cain, Seth, or other descendants of Adam interact with such hidden populations? Apocryphal writings hint at strange encounters, hidden knowledge, and forbidden practices that might trace back to pre-Adamic origins. Some theories even propose that the Nephilim giants mentioned in Genesis 6 were survivors or hybrids of these ancient races, merging with humanity in a shadowed intersection of divine and earthly lineage. These intersections blur the line between myth and reality, suggesting a far richer and more mysterious history than traditional readings allow. The moral and spiritual dimensions of these pre-Adamic races are equally fascinating. Were they inherently rebellious, corrupt, or simply part of a divine test for humanity? The concept of exile, punishment, or concealment may apply not just to Cain and his descendants, but to these primordial beings as well. Their existence, real, symbolic, or both, forces us to confront profound questions about divine justice, the origin of evil, and the framework of creation itself. Could the eradication or hiding of these races have paved the way for humanity's moral and spiritual development? And if so, does the Bible contain subtle references or allegories to their presence, waiting to be understood by those willing to read between the lines of sacred texts? Across cultures, stories of lost races resonate with similar themes: beings of great power, wisdom, or size, whose disappearance marks the beginning of human civilization as we know it. From Atlantis to Lemuria, from Sumerian epics to Indian Puranas, the motif of ancient, forgotten races appears repeatedly. Could these myths be cultural memories of pre-Adamic beings, preserved across millennia in allegory and legend? And if they are, what truths remain hidden beneath the layers of narrative, interpretation, and symbolic meaning? In conclusion, the existence of pre-Adamic races remains one of the most enigmatic and provocative questions in biblical and ancient history. Whether literal or allegorical, these beings challenge our understanding of creation, humanity, and the divine plan. They suggest a layered history of the earth, filled with unknown civilizations, spiritual entities, and moral complexities that predate Adam and Eve. Exploring these races is not merely an academic exercise. It is an invitation to reconsider the origins of humanity, the purpose of creation, and the hidden forces that have shaped the world long before recorded history. The earth, as it was before Adam, may have been a stage for beings whose stories were lost, hidden, or erased, a prelude to the human drama that would follow in the Garden of Eden. What became of the beings who roamed the earth before Adam and Eve? Were they entirely wiped out, or did fragments of their existence linger, subtly influencing the world that would come after? Some apocryphal texts suggest that these races were not purely human, nor entirely angelic. They were hybrids of spirit and flesh, capable of remarkable feats, yet flawed by pride, rebellion, or disobedience. Their civilizations may have been vast, their knowledge profound, and their influence on the natural world significant, but their fate was sealed by divine decree. The Book of Jubilees hints at a timeline where pre-Adamic beings were judged and removed, making way for humanity to inherit the earth. Yet hints remain: the stories of giants, the mysterious marks left in ancient ruins, and the presence of beings in myth and legend who defy natural explanation. These remnants, scholars argue, could be traces of races whose lineage intersected briefly with Adam's descendants, perhaps even shaping early human societies in subtle, hidden ways. Genesis speaks of Cain, the first murderer, wandering the earth and encountering people outside his immediate family. Some scholars propose that these others could have been descendants of pre-Adamic races, beings already inhabiting the earth long before Adam's line multiplied. If so, Cain's exile was not simply into empty wilderness, but into a world already peopled by strange, ancient entities. This raises profound implications. Humanity's early history may have been influenced not only by divine law and morality, but by interactions with beings of immense power, knowledge, or otherness. These pre-Adamic races, in some traditions, were associated with forbidden knowledge. The Book of Enoch speaks of the Watchers, angels who descended and taught humans arts, sciences, and secrets that were not meant for them. Could these watchers represent a lingering memory of pre-Adamic beings whom held knowledge outside the divine order and whose actions shaped the trajectory of early humanity? Some interpretations suggest that the Nephilim, the giants mentioned in Genesis 6, were either remnants of these pre-Adamic races or hybrids formed when the Watchers intermingled with humans. Their existence symbolizes a junction between the divine, the pre-human, and the mortal, a collision of destinies that shaped the moral and physical world of humankind. The moral dimension of their story is compelling. Pre-Adamic races were often described as proud, rebellious, or tyrannical, yet capable of great innovation. Their downfall, whether through divine judgment, internal corruption, or natural catastrophes, as a warning. Humanity, inheriting the earth afterward, was given a chance to follow divine guidance while avoiding the errors of these earlier beings. Yet the echoes of their existence remain in myths, legends, unexplained artifacts, and perhaps even in the human inclination toward knowledge, power, and ambition. Some scholars propose that certain human achievements, architecture, metallurgy, and early city building may reflect lessons learned or inherited from the lingering influence of pre-knowledge. These beings, though hidden or removed from the biblical narrative, could have indirectly guided human civilization through the knowledge they left behind or the cautionary tales of their downfall. Their story reminds us that history is layered, and that what is omitted from sacred texts may hold as much meaning as what is recorded in the end. The pre-Adamic races represent both a mystery and a mirror. They are a mirror of humanity's potential and its peril, a reflection of what might happen when knowledge and power are misused, and a reminder that divine order governs all creation. Their legacy may not be in cities or monuments that survive, but in the moral and spiritual lessons encoded in human consciousness. As we study Genesis, apocryphal writings, and ancient myths, we glimpse the outlines of a world that existed before ours, a forgotten chapter in the story of the earth, waiting to be understood, respected, and remembered. If the pre-Adamic races truly walked the earth before Adam, then their memory is not just ancient history, is a shadow that lingers over humanity even now. The stories of giants, fallen angels, and mysterious civilizations serve not only as myths but as echoes of a time when beings of great power roamed a world not yet entrusted to humankind. Their downfall reminds us of the fragile balance between divine order and human ambition. In every ancient culture, from Mesopotamian tales of Apkallu to Greek myths of titans, we find recurring themes: advanced beings, half-divine figures, and a cataclysm that swept them away. These parallels suggest that the memory of pre-Adamic beings was preserved across nations and languages, carried as whispers of warning. What unites all these traditions is a single truth: that power without obedience leads to ruin, and that no race, no matter how strong, can escape divine judgment. For humanity today, the lesson is urgent. We live in an age obsessed with knowledge, technology, and the pursuit of power, echoing the very paths that may have destroyed the pre-Adamic races. Their legacy is not only found in ruins or texts, but in the human temptation to transcend limits, to reshape creation according to our will. Just as the Watchers once gave forbidden knowledge to mankind, today we stand on the edge of breakthroughs that blur the line between natural and unnatural, moral and immoral. Perhaps the most haunting question is this: if the pre-Adamic races once rebelled against divine order and fell, are we destined to repeat their mistakes? The Bible hints that history is cyclical, that as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be. The forgotten beings of the earth are not only a mystery of the past, but a mirror of the future. The pre-Adamic races stand as both a warning and a riddle. They remind us that the earth is older, deeper, and more mysterious than we imagine. Their memory survives in scripture's silences, in the gaps between verses, in myths and ruins that resist explanation. Yet their ultimate fate, judgment and removal, reveals that the earth is not humanity's by right, but by divine gift. It is entrusted to us to guard and to obey, lest we too become a forgotten race, remembered only as those who could not heed the warnings written in the stones of time.